Hi, everyone. This is Evo Haining. I am not going to be on video today because we're going to be going through quite a few slides on reality craft and world building. This is the culmination of the workshop we've been doing, the cohort series on generative creativity and how to figure out when the right time is to use these tools effectively for you. So please let me know in the chat if you need me to slow down or stop for any reason. And also let me know if you can see these slides today. You should be able to hear me throughout this session. So we're going to be exploring the whole gamut of what we have covered over the last 7 weeks of this cohort. Thank you for letting me know that you are able to see and hear me, and feel free to interact. This portion of the recorded session will go onto YouTube and will be a preview for future workshops as well. So we will go ahead and open up our mics in the last section, but for this first start, we will just explore what we have covered in terms of world building and creating the worlds that you want to live in, whether that is something realistic or fantastic, whether that's something physical or virtual. We are here at Reality Craft to create the worlds that you want to live in. And part of that is a refinement process, learning how to be an inquiry together and figuring out how to imagine the kinds of spaces, whether that's an eco village, a community, a new housing development, a new virtual space, being able to bring people into something that feels like participating in play, like a game, like a pinball machine, or imagine any type of game you want to do. I want you to think about what you want to create. Think of it as a game board, as a field, as a play space, an infinite canvas. I want you to imagine fully the game that you want to play with other people, the invitation that you want to give other people to participate with you is a generative, interactive, participatory, or immersive approach the right way to achieve your goal? These are the questions you need to be asking yourself as you develop the methods, the tools, the workflows, the assets, and all of the things that you may be creating in your own world building. So I've been doing this work obviously for over a decade. This is in Medellin, Colombia, where we were using AI and 360 video to do site planning for autonomous vehicles and for multimodal transit. But when we're thinking about immersive world building, this workshop specifically has been designed to empower you with AI tools, generative tools, techniques, and workflows to build immersive worlds and experiences. Now, those concepts may become something physical in the real world, or they may be completely virtual. But our goal here is to integrate all of these tools so that you can craft cohesive narratives, design interactive environments, and create something that's engaging for other people, no matter what media you choose to use. Reality Craft's approach is that to combine creative vision with the technical expertise and thinking about how you're going to bring all of these pieces together, whether that's into a canvas or into some other method. Now, some of you are already thinking about using game engines, Unreal and Unity. You might be thinking about Omniverse and other types of 3D spaces to bring everything together. So this workshop was really designed to help you think about the entire space, build your toolkit and your skills progressively, and then to really use those in order to build whatever it is that you are imagining. These are the skills that we've been working toward. Mastering multimodal content generation. Now, that's in images, that's been in videos. We've tried a little bit in 3D asset generation, skyboxes. Some of you have been testing in audio as well. Developing integrated workflows that bring together those aspects. Now, that is something we are still discussing, and I want you to explore in our interaction together, both today and later on in our interactive session later. Creating consistent visual and narrative elements across different mediums. Now, we've talked a little bit about how to train your own model, how to build an open source workflow that builds a body of work, but also thinking about control, whether that's using LoRa's and ControlNet or a node-based solution, a no-code-based solution, being able to build a body of work and keep it consistent, whether that's character design or world design. Applying these best practices and understanding the technical and the creative expertise needed, because both of these things come into play. If you're thinking about building a whole fictional world, obviously you are all now creative technologists. You have a sense of how maybe thousands of objects might be unified in order to create a world together. So these are the questions I want you to answer for yourself when you are designing any world or experience. I want you to start with reason. What is your reason? What is your reason why? Why do you want to create this world? What is motivating your creative process and development? Is there a massive transformative purpose that you see in this, whether it's storytelling, site development, your eco-village projects? I want you to set your purpose and goals, write them down, put them somewhere at the top of a page, and then focus on interactivity. Focus on the choices of technology, the interfaces, the tools, the platforms after you have set your purpose and goals, because you're going to find that these things inform each other. And the kinds of experiences you want to invite people into are going to determine which platform and interface you may choose. So once you've got your purpose nailed down, think about the experience. What is the invitation to play or act that you're sharing together? Is there an engagement that you are looking for? Have you thought about where you are giving people an invitation to join you through an experience? This is a video from the upcoming portal crawls that we're doing, the meta traversal portal crawls. This is some video that we've done where you can see it became the portal crawl when we took this into runway. But these are experiences of shared possibility, right? Going across worlds in order to see what our futures can unfold together. So we are collective, we are whole and something more than just the sum of our parts. And every time we invite play, we are doing something bigger than just a single solo interaction. So I want you to think about how you are inviting play. How are you inviting play, not just through the interactions you choose, right? The interfaces you choose, but also the ways in which you ask. We're going to go right back to that slide. How are you inviting play through interaction design? Choice of interface? Is it a multiplayer environment where you are working with other people? Is your media, the thing you're publishing, something that is participatory in nature? Are you using something on social media? Or what's your vibe? How are you thinking about engagement and the invitation to play as an inviting, joyful, fun vibe, right? Whether you're thinking about the future Kitten Institute of Technology, or you're thinking about something that's far more of this world and realized, think about what you are listening to with your audience. What signals are you listening to in your discovery and testing process? Who is on your team? Who is giving you feedback? Who are the people in the community who might be able to test these ideas with you? Because when you're iterating, you're also interacting. And that discovery process is going to open up certain things that you may not expect. You may start in VR and realize that you want to be in AR or mobile experiences. You might want to be in smart glasses because you're going into construction zones. So think about how you engage in the discovery process with other people through interactive media. Now, that can be the kinds of WebXR experiences, the skyboxes that we've seen, emergent physical spaces, as well as virtual spaces. These are the spaces where our creativity can be opened up together but you are the designers of that interaction. So you have to facilitate what might be exploring other people's creativity, not just your own. Once you have laid out that game board for the people that you are playing with, whether that's a community of people, maybe that is the place where you are building a new site plan, a concept design, a film, I want you to think about the actual space, the game board, the canvas, and the physical space as well as the virtual space, the terrain. Now, is that world that you're creating something unique? And are you trying new things? Are you trying new textures? Are you taking people sort of outside their boxes when you're thinking about world building and terrain experiences? Because it could
And this
certainly
was the
be
video.
a
Please check
physical thing
guidelines.
that inspires you, not just a virtual thing. You can use 360 video. You can use all of the different methods that we've been exploring in terms of Gaussian splats and radiance fields and NeRFs. All of these elements can be brought together into these XR environments to become a canvas of possibility, a place where you can build a site plan. So I know some of you are exploring going out and getting 3D scans or maybe shooting 360 video that can then be used for concept development. And we've explored some of the workflows that you can begin to use, whether that's bringing them into a game engine like Play Canvas and Supersplat, or using Unreal Engine and then bringing those into a production environment, or a volumetric capture stage, something that would allow for people and physical interaction to happen on that set. So, all of these are production pads that are available for you. And it starts with just picking up your phone, like I did here with this, my chair, and figuring out how to create a scan of that chair, right? This is that antique 1960s rocker. I went around and I used my Luma tool in order to create a 3D scan of that object. From there, I can then take that object, I can go and clean it up in Blender. You can see the bottom of it's missing. I have to do a little cleanup work in order to get that object into my world. All of those things add up to an experience. And I want you to be thinking about the reality that you are inviting people into. Is it something that is wonderful and joyful? Is it something that gives them a yes? Is it compelling? Is it something that people want to share with other people? Right? What is compelling about your vision, about your world, that makes it yummy and worth saying yes to again? What is going to keep people coming back to the reality that you are shaping, that you are crafting in your experiences? Okay, so that's the reality side of reality craft. And we're going through the words here. And some of you have noticed that each of these stands for something. And each of them also plays into some of those methods that we've explored, both in prompt engineering. Right? These are 10 different methods of prompt engineering that some of you are using in your world building and in your design process, in your explorations with maybe Claude or Llama or one of the other large language models, building on ideas, figuring out how to analyze your concepts and the things that you are creating to create order and structure. I personally use half of these methods in addition to my Notion, which some of you will be invited into as part of this workshop. So, and I want to encourage you to go ahead and leave your comments in the chat. We are going to explore both questions and some of the ideas and things that you are exploring as we continue. And each of us has access to each other through the Discord to be able to figure out how to unpack all of these elements together. So, we've gone through the reality side. Now we're going to go through the craft. We've gone through reason, experience, asking and listening, interacting, terraforming and thinking about transforming the terrain and the world itself, whether that's a physical world or a virtual world, and the sensory experience. What is the yes? What is our big, wonderful, compelling part of the design? Now let's talk about the other aspects, the characters of creativity, right? We've talked a little bit about both creating original characters, whether those are avatars or perhaps AI agents that are that are trained on a body of work? Is there something unique or fun in the way that you are creating your characters? Can you do something different that no one else has done before? Are you bringing in real and diverse perspectives? Are you training based on a good model of data? Is your is your underlying training model okay? Is it diverse and giving you a sort of an unbiased look, or is it a deeply biased training set? Each of those are considerations that you might want to consider, whether you're thinking about creatures and developing something that's non human or thinking about developing deeply human characters. Realness matters to us. And so making things that are relatable and trustable is important. Now, there is a trust gap with most things that are built on generative data. It is going to continue to be a trust gap until you choose to figure out how to bridge that gap, because the relatability and the trustability is going to come down to you, the creator. The characters and the experiences only add up to so much. The invitation, the listening, the building with diversity, but with as little bias as possible, those are things that allow for your authenticity, your realness to come through. Now, realness can look like lots of different things. It can look like using real images in order to develop AI videos. It can also look like bringing something that feels real, but maybe is missing something, maybe missing a quality of realness, or has something that is clearly too surreal, like fireworks at daybreak at the dawn, right? There are certain things we generally know aren't real. And it might not resonate if it isn't real. So these are the sorts of things that you're going to need to figure out as you are building your assets. Now, a world is thousands of assets. Each of those assets has value. So I want you thinking about the value created. What value is created and shared in the space that you're generating and creating, building on, and participating together? And are there open ways to grow that value? Are you building a collective repository? Are you building lots of concept designs that other people can participate in and maybe vote on in order to build a future together? Because you can perhaps create a design challenge using these tools. It does not have to be something where you are deciding what needs to be there, right? The Cat Institute of Technology might need to be designed by cats, not humans, and certainly not by AI. Figuring out the right tool for the right job is really important. But you also need to remember that any fiction you make can also make factions. So if you're making a new reality, if you're making a new aspect or idea, a what if, a facet of the world that we live in, is there something that is risky? Is there something that is going to create conflict or real concern? Is the reality that you are giving people something that they can get their heads around, or is it going to leave them too confused and overwhelmed? These are things where your fictions, the worlds that you are building, may be very powerful and inspiring, but they can also be divisive, right? We know about deep fakes and some of the ways in which generative media can be used to create real harm. And so I ask you, as we stepped back into those ethics at the starting place, to really create from a place where you feel that you can be transparent about your process, but that you also feel like the bugs have been worked out, right? Maybe those bugs should be there and maybe they shouldn't be. So, those are the conversations you need to be having as you work toward the transformation you are seeking. Now, remember, we started with purpose. What is the massive transformative purpose? Now, think about the end goal. You've created your world. What is the big change when people experience, share, and grow in that space? Now, it might just be we're going to hang out and have fun, and maybe we'll get some media out of it, or maybe we're just going to make a hack day. Maybe we're going to do something cool and collaborate on something, but maybe it's just to hang out. Maybe it's a completely social experience. Whether you are trying to build something that is massive and world changing or something that's, playful, like an arcade or a game, each of those has an opportunity to give people a sense of agency, a sense of self, and a sense of their own ability to transform the world in front of them. The more power you give to them in your world, the more you may transform their own understanding of themselves. So when you're building a world, these are all of those different things that might be coming together in your library, in your repo, right? There's those thousands of objects. Like if you're building a game, you might have sprites up the thousands. This is certainly in some of the worlds I've built in virtual worlds, we've built like 18,000 objects for a single world. So that's where having a generative tool at your disposal might be the way in order to get there effectively so that it's not something that would be, a 7 or 8 figure budget price tag. Figuring out whether that's something a smaller team of artists can execute together means you need to take the leadership and build a workflow that everyone can work around while maintaining consistent style of art, a way in which the videos are going to come together, an ability to publish together through those workflows. So we've explored a bit around audio clips, and some of you have used tools like 11 Labs, Suno, Udio. Maybe you're making background music. Maybe you're using procedural tools. We looked a little bit at mynoise.net and some of the other tools that just allow you to create background sound without using generative media. Again, generative tool might be the right tool for the right job, and it might not be. So there might be a reason to have original music accompanying something that is perhaps built between humans and AI. These are often paired programming processes. And so thinking about where you want original art and where you want the original art to shine and where you want things that are real, whether those are real scans, real objects brought into a 3D space, brought together with your characters, your avatars, perhaps an AI agent that is serving some purpose in learning, and the skyboxes. All of that comes together to build your world. Now, we've explored how some of those pieces get brought together in workflows. We've looked at, for example, Luma and taking, a single image into a video, and now taking lots of videos into Canva and building something that is a more cohesive piece. This was one extended video done in Luma Dream Machine where we just made a loop of a snow globe going all the way through. And then I recut that later so that I could make that a Zoom background. Now, is that a whole world? No. Is it a holiday card? Yes. So for you, the media choice might be different every time. You may choose to use a 3D generator, an image generator, an LLM, a video tool. You may choose to bring those together one week and then go to a completely different method or a completely different platform down the road. So look for methods that are interoperable while building libraries of assets that you can use across these ecosystems. Now we've talked about the portability of using Unreal Engine or Unity, Play Canvas. Those are game engines. There's also Omniverse. We've looked a little bit at tools like Playbook that are AI-driven canvases as well. And then there's also the bespoke tools, right? If you're building inside something like Roblox or Minecraft, there are also AI tools specific to those worlds. No matter what you are choosing, there is the media, the method, and the message, and they are all intertwined. They are intertwined in your prompt craft. They are intertwined in the way that you choose to piece together that world and make it playful and accessible, right? So, is it something that is an easy to pick up tool that you've embedded like an API in your world? We are starting to see some of our XR worlds have a prompt line so people can make their own objects in welcome space that you have created. So you can build a participatory space where other people can generate with you. Those are your choices of workflows, software, platforms, piecing them together and assembling your toolkits. One tool we did not get to talk too much about, but I really love from a creator named Shane McGeehan is Prompter. And this started as a tool for Midjourney. I will make sure prompterguide.com and Prompter as a worksheet. This is basically a Google Doc that allows you to save your prompt craft and what's working for you across different image generators. While it is set up for Midjourney use, having a tool like this can really help you to catalog the words that are working for you. Now, I don't think you need to use this method. You may find that a node-based solution or a canvas is going to be the right way for you to stay organized. I currently use Notion to stay organized. And some of you are going to have access to that Notion for taking the workshop. And I want to thank you for taking the workshop. All of these resources are something that I aim to keep updated, whether it's the best tools and models, the best WebXR worlds. I catalog those with my friends at the Virtual Worlds Museum in our Spotlight series as well, and the software solutions, figuring out how you're going to piece it together. We've looked at maybe 50 of the over 1,000 tools out there. And so we've looked at sites like Future Tools IO in order to say, do a comp study across 5 different world building sites to see which one is going to give you the quality you're looking for. So let's step back. Imagine what you want to create. Imagine it like a game board, a field, a play space, an infinite canvas. Imagine any type of game you like to play. Now, think about that invitation to play. Think about that invitation to create something. Start to go through these questions that we have explored together. Why are you creating it? And then think about how you are going to go back to your communities and engage an inquiry process and asking and listening and interaction and testing, right? All of those iterative processes are what allow you to refine your own prompt craft. Now, some of you have been on the Notion page. I have been updating our Notion to be a much more robust repo. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to that over here shortly for us in this workshop. And if you want to sign up for a future workshop, you can have access to that Notion doc as well. I'm also starting the process of working on the next generation of the book. So both promptcraft and the reality craft guidebook are coming in 2025. Once again, these are the objects I want you thinking about coalescing in your concept design and in your project plan. Thousands of objects or art objects or 3D assets. Some of those might be coming from a generator. Some of those might be coming from Sketchfab, from your own art. They might be GLB files. They might be files that you are making, right, in Blender. Think about how you are going to organize and bring together all of those aspects of your world. And then is it a game engine or is it some other tool you are going to use to assemble the world you are imagining? I want to invite you once again to join me. We're going to be walking through the WebXR worlds on December 30th, 2024. That is our next portal crawl. I'll make sure to send that invitation to all of you here. We have basically 50 slots only for the portal crawl, as most of these spaces are pretty limited. But we're going to walk across a number of emergent virtual worlds, including our museum and some of the spaces that we've been creating. So you're all welcome to join for that. That will give you a really good sample of half a dozen different platform-specific VR worlds if you're trying to think about where you might create an immersive experience. So quickly, and we'll be wrapping up and taking questions in just a few moments. I want you to be thinking about building your prompt checklist, and these might be keywords. These are keywords you can write down right where you are. Maybe you have a document already started, but I want you to be thinking about coalescing your language into consistent language that you use again and again across tools. There might be style words. There might be epoch or time period words, atmospheric conditions, geographical features, right? My use of certain stones like cobalt or gold or labradorite, right? All of those things create a setting and an environment. Think about the main inhabitants, the characters, their details, their traditions and customs, not just that they might be joyful or have an expressive face, but what's in their hands? What are the things and the details that make their world? If, especially if you're building anything that is physical, that will give people a sense of resonance, putting tools in the hands of those characters. Those are things that are relatable and help create that sense of trust and resonance, even if it is a hybrid physical and virtual experience. Now, remember, there are ways to create something that feels both human and avatar driven at the same time. So you may choose to build on that as part of your social dynamic, as part of your community. Think about how you are going to honor history and lore. We've talked about indigenous traditions and how we engage with those in our spaces, whether that's a concept design space or a virtual space. That could be one of the things we did in Second Life early days, which is having drum circles together in order to collaborate so that we could just sync up as avatars before going into other forms of creativity together. Sometimes your job to open up the creativity of others is to help people connect, to both identify the factions and their origins, but also help people see what brings them together, to bring them around the digital campfire and figure out what unites them so that you can connect to those significant legends or myths that might inspire something new in the people that you're engaging with. So you're going to summarize the central themes, whether that's a story world or a concept design world. Both of those are important, right? It may be the design constraints as well as the themes that you're hearing from the people that you're engaging with and asking. So this is where iteration and really asking questions with your community matters early on in your design process before you create something too far along. And I would love to see your photos. Please feel free to send those photos of previous drum circles that we had along the way. If you're building a fictional world or a game, you might have an economy or resources. If you're building a physical experience, it might just mean we've got oranges and water and coffee here because we're going to collaborate together. So think about what are the exchanges? What are the interactions that you want to drive? If it's a physical type of interaction, there need to be certain resources set up. If it's a creative interaction, you might need art supplies there, right? Think about what you are facilitating and then outline the resources that you need to get there. The sooner you can outline those resources and call them in, that begins the actual world building fun of being able to integrate the culture, the art, and all of the resources that you can bring together to the table. Now, you want to make sure you are highlighting artistic expressions and not allowing things to become too artificial, too generative, right? Anything you can do that improves that sense of humanness, relatability, realness, resonance. Some of those might be tapping into cultural celebrations, festivals, ways to honor each other. I unfortunately missed a virtual VR memorial this weekend, but I did host, I think, 2 dozen of those during the pandemic. So there are lots of ways in which we come together to honor and celebrate. And you can tap into that in your world building, whether that's building an event that builds on the momentum already existing in your community, or inviting people to just come play a game that does something different, that builds on a creative experience together. Now, obviously, everything we build needs to be in tune with the people we're creating it with. That's going to lead to some ethical rubs. That's going to lead to some conflict and challenges about whether these methods are appropriate. So be transparent, be honest, be clear, attribute things as being made by generative AI when they are made by a generative tool. If something is a simulation in a video, let people know so that they understand what they're seeing. And then make sure you discuss these conversations together with the people you're working with. Have an open conversation about consent, where the data goes, and build a policy that is appropriate to the ethical frameworks that you need in your own community. To do that, you're going to need to describe the language. You're going to need to maybe explore how you resolve conflict, but also maybe there's a playful way to do that. The drum circle, dance, all of these are methods by which we come together. In the conversation I had the other day, we talked about the haka and the power of indigenous ceremony in the state house, in political spheres, in world building as well. So think about how language and culture and all of the ways we celebrate tradition together can shape the world that you want to build. Now, if that's a video arcade, that means coming from the mindset of being inside that gameplay. Think about the conflicts, think about the challenges, make sure you have developed that appropriately so that if you are building an AI agent, for example, you have built a well rounded character that is appropriately addressing questions of bias or is dealing with issues of AI safety, because some of these issues, especially if you're doing anything with the real world or with the public, are going to come up against people's fears. Now, that might be fear of having the place they love changed in a way that isn't appropriate for them. That might be fear that they are not being invited to participate in that process. So you're going to need to address those fears in anything that you choose to create that is gamified, interactive, participatory, or immersive. Lastly, I want you thinking about the magic of your creativity in your experience. Think about how technology, creativity, wonder, and magic come together. Really list specific inventions, right? The technical tools, but also think about the magical practices and make sure that there is a sense of wonder and delight and joy, as well as technical capacity, right? So much of what we hear about technology and AI is really focused on innovation, but technical is craft. The word technical is referring to craft. So think about your own art, your creativity, and your craft, and be able to share and explain how both technology and magic affect your daily life as a creator. Now, when you can come from that perspective, you will then be ready to lead a process with other people where you are going in and creating characters or worlds or building some sort of site plan for your future eco village. So, we've talked a little bit about AI agents, and this is from Jeremiah Owing, who just recently published this as a general definition of AI agents as autonomous software systems that can perceive their environment, make decisions, and take actions to achieve specific goals, often with the ability to learn and adapt over time. Now, some of you don't need to engage with AI agents at this time, and some of you are really trying to build a paired programming process with lots of different types of agents. I currently use AI agent development in client customer service with teams where they want to build an AI agent that is their front end kiosk, for example. We use them in libraries and in archiving, both for the museums and public sector, but also thinking about how knowledge is made easier to find over time. Now, that requires a great deal of time and training, but what that allows for is the ability to learn and adapt over time. And you can see lots of different ways that might be useful. Obviously, it's super useful in multimodal transit and in things that go into cities and urban planning. And we've talked a little bit about urban planning, and there are a lot more urban planning examples in our Notion. We've also talked just a little bit about volumes, volumetric capture, and all the ways that you could tell a story on an LED volume. All of that is also on our Notion. So whether you're thinking about how you're going to build your generative workflow, maybe we started in Canva, figuring out how we could play with kind of trippier effects, or maybe you're ready to go and start building in Spatial or Engage, Arrival Space, FrameVR.io. Um, I hope that you will come and invite me to your world, whatever it is that you've chosen to create. We are going to come back together on Thursday, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the worlds that you've created. As I mentioned earlier, I am working on the next generation of the new promptcraft guidebook. I'm also working on a future version of this workshop as an online guidebook as well. If you're wanting to explore these topics and want to show something to your colleagues that might help them get their head around things, this movie AI Evolution is currently out now on streaming services, and you can certainly share that with your friends and elders. That might help perhaps open up a conversation. Obviously, we've been through now a couple of weeks together. Some of our previous talks and the previous lightning sessions I've done on Maven are on YouTube. So you are welcome to go and check those out and send them to your colleagues as well. And from all of us here, I just wanted to wish you a happy holidays. I'm going to go ahead and come back on video, and we are going to stop the recording shortly and come in and take your questions for the last 20 minutes or so we have today. It's so great to be here with you, and thank you for making the time to do this with me.